welcome to a behind the scenes and another edition, another series of a behind the scenes video. Let's go. Alright, let's get into how you can master natural light photography at the beach. Now, these are tips that work for me, and I hope they really work for you. And the best part, you don't need a ton of fancy gear, it's just you, your camera, and a beautiful natural light. So, let's get started. First things first, timing. What really works for me is shooting late afternoon. Shooting in the middle of the day when the sun is directly overhead is just a no-go for me. The light is way too harsh and you end up with strong shadows and blown out highlights. It's like trying to take a really good selfie but just under spotlight. It's just not gonna happen. So instead, I like to shoot in the late afternoon when the sun is lower and the light is softer. Of course, in the late afternoon you have the golden hour. That time just after sunrise or just before sunset, when everything looks warm and beautiful. On one of my shoots, this shoot actually, we had about 2 minutes where the sun came through and it broke through the clouds. But honestly, this was perfect, and the clouds acted like a giant softbox. Also, when the sun didn't come through, diffusing the light, so we didn't have to deal with harsh shadows anymore. So even when the weather doesn't seem ideal, like there's always a way to make it work. You don't need sun, and sometimes even having not too much sun works better. So speaking about light, right? Let's talk about backlighting. Like, I used to love shooting with the sun behind my subject and get dramatic glows and dramatic backlights, getting that cinematic shots. But while this can still work sometimes, don't get me wrong, these days I prefer lighting that's in front of or slightly to the side of the subject. It keeps the photo more balanced and helps the subject blend naturally into the scene. And it helps for me to keep the colors a little bit the same and don't have overexposed parts. It's a lot easier on the eyes when you look at the photos. Another thing is that I've been doing lately is underexposing my shots just a little, and it works really fine for me. It keeps those bright highlights like the sky or the water from getting completely blown out, so you still have textures in your shots. It also makes the editing process a bit easier because you have more control over the details when you bring everything together later on. So another thing what works for me and that I neglected in the past is that you don't forget about the horizon. This is one of those simple things that can make or break a beach photo. It helps you keep the horizon leveled. A crooked horizon just feels off, right? So I always try to keep it level and place it on top or bottom third of the frame to create a more balanced composition. Now, the last part about gear. So honestly, any camera will do. I've been taking beach photos for 10 years at least, and when I was in Vietnam, I was doing it in the Netherlands with my Canon 70D. So camera doesn't matter too much, but what works for me again is like your lens choice. And for me, this is a 35mm 1.4 all the way. It's wide enough to capture both the model and the beach in the background without too much distortion. It's not ideal, but it doesn't give too much. and that is especially important for portraits. Whether I'm shooting full body or close-ups, this lens gives me just a flexibility to tell a whole story in one shot. That's what works for me. I really hope you get something out of this video and found it helpful. I'd love to know what works for you, of course. Drop a comment below, share your favorite lens or tips and technique, and show me some of your work, of course. I'd love to see it. And if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, it would help out the channel a lot if you hit the subscribe button, and you also don't miss out more of my tips like these ones. Now, go grab your camera, head out there, start shooting. You've got this.